Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butts, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. Cheese lovers, assemble. This fall, Wisconsin Cheese is proudly hosting their first ever Art of Cheese Festival. Head to www.artofcheesefestival.com to snag your tickets and cheese the day.
Culture and Flavor is a podcast about food and culture centered in Black and Indigenous foodways. Hosted by myself, Zella Palmer, right here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Each episode features high vibrational conversations with cultural bearers, chefs, farmers, scholars, barbecue pitmasters, and more. Where there is flavor, there is history. Join me on Culture and Flavor and all of my guests as we share stories that will have you praise dancing, cooking, conjuring, and inspiring your culinary journey.
Welcome to another episode of Culture and Flavor with Zella Palmer. I am so excited today to invite a dear friend and colleague and just an amazing writer, Megan Braden-Perry, who is a published author, award-winning freelance journalist, public speaker, photographer, multi-generation New Orleans native. Her books include Crescent City Snow, The Ultimate Guide to New Orleans Snowball Stands, and the cutest children's book, Alan the Alligator Counts Through New Orleans, a New Orleans kids counting book. Welcome, Megan. Welcome to Culture and Flavor.
Hey, thank you, Zella. I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Just, to all my listeners, Megan is one of my favorite writers. She is hilarious. Her stories about growing up in the 7th Ward of New Orleans, her beautiful son named Franklin, who is her best friend, as she always says. And then some of her posts, even when she calls out the media industry or people from out of town and their shenanigans. I just love you so much.
Thank you. It's so much easier to just be honest, I can't do things. So people get mad. People get very mad, but oh well. I'd rather, be hated for who I am.
Well, let's talk about just you growing up in the 7th Ward of New Orleans. I want to hear your story. We all want to hear your story and just why the 7th Ward is such a historical neighborhood, and just really, how that led you to become a writer and public speaker and super mom.
Thank you. So my mom, we didn't have a car or anything like that. So we would just walk everywhere and catch the bus everywhere. So people got to know us. And then my mom was raised in 7th Ward too. So we would go walk, and everywhere we go, we'd see people. We would stop everywhere we went. Walgreens, Alice Removes, it was like the seafood spot. Ain't there no more, as they say. And I was raised at the bar. I would go to Mulet's bar. And I would go and I would play the jukebox since a baby. and I would dance on the bar and people would give me money. And it was just a normal thing. And that was the same bar that my mom was raised in when she was a baby, and it was a grocery back then. But, same thing. And so I was just like, oh, like these are things that make sense to me. Why is nobody talking about them, So that's always what I like to do when it comes to writing. And just everything really is like, oh, this is kind of cool. I think other people would like to know about it. It needs its respect and all that good stuff. Or it's just really, really fun and people should know. Or it's not fun and people should be aware. Not like I'm like a diss rapper type person, I'm not going to talk bad about restaurants unless you ask me, but I'm not going to lie either.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But, I know that you lost your mom and, you lost your family while you were a student at Dillard University. That must have been really, really, really hard for you. How did you, just decide like, I'm going to finish school and I'm going to stick to being a creative?
Oh, it was hard. So my family died when I was like right before I went to Dillard. And that was my senior year of high school. I was 17. And so it was my mom, and then it was my papa. And then I was with these really abusive people, my mom's first cousins, just really abusive, horrible people. And I applied to all these schools, but at the time, Xavier was my first choice. Because I was like, when my mom was alive, you're applying for schools at the end of like junior year, senior year, all that. I said, okay, I'll go to Xavier and, that'll be great. And so my mom, she'll be happy. She doesn't want me to leave, I'm sure, so I won't go to Spelman. I won't go here. I won't go to Columbia. I'll just go to Xavier. But I ended up at Dillard on purpose. And I immediately, as soon as they had summer school, I said, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to summer school so I can have a place to live. And I made a family there, and I love my Dillard family. And when I just walk back on the Oaks, it's just, all these memories, like silly stuff and then like actual, important stuff. But as far as what kept me going as a creative, I have taught and I love education. I was going into education, but I think I remember looking at the catalog. And baby, that catalog said I would have a fifth year of school. And at the time, I was like, a fifth year? That's crazy. Why would I do that? Let me look in the catalog and see what's kind of cool and doesn't have that many hours. And it was mass communication. I said, okay, I could do this. This is something I'm pretty good at. But then, again, Katrina happened and depression, because Katrina was 2 years after my family died. So it was like, gee whiz, man, I lost my family. Now I lost my house. This is just stressful. I can't take any of this anymore. I'm going to go and work at the Gap and fix the house on my Gap minimum wage day.
Wow.
But anyway, I ended up going back. I tried to go back a few times and it never worked. Because, money, that's what I think about all the time, just having money for like bills and stuff. And it was like, well, you know how it is when you're stressed about stuff. You can't focus on no stupid work. I don't want to focus on no, I forget his name, James Baldwin and this one and that one. I don't want to do that. I just want to make money and keep the lights on, So it took me years. I graduated in 2017 and it was supposed to be 2007. But I stopped, started, had a baby, got into actual media and, but it worked out the way it was supposed to.
And what were some of your memories of just, the media, getting into media as initially, how were you treated, as a native New Orleanian and getting into media and wanting to tell stories that, really captured your life and everyone else's life?
Right. Well, and the reason I got into media at all, like aside from the whole, it was short in the catalog thing, because Dillard, the mass comm, like I learned a lot, but it wasn't what I got from there. I got more stuff, of course, in the field. So one day I was just like, you know what? In 2008, I spent all my like disposable income on food and on magazines. why don't I just write for magazines? And I wasn't even thinking about writing about food because I thought that was just for white men, because that's just all I'd ever seen. And I said, oh, okay, well, if they don't want me to do that, they already have somebody. So I'll just, I'll do fashion. I'm a Black woman. I can do fashion. And so I went to, I was 26. When I went to Gambit, they had an internship with their fashion magazine. And it was cool. And I really, really liked it. And thank God I was able to actually work and do all these different things. And you know how it is. Like, maybe you start, you were into dance, and I'm sure you still are, obviously. But, you do things and you're like, oh, now I'm exposed to this. Maybe that could be cool. You know what? I've always liked that. That's been a gift of mine. So working here, it was okay. But, you have to, people don't believe you. People don't believe anything you're saying. And then, the idiots in the comments, ridiculous. That's why I don't work in local media anymore, because our idiots in the comments are worse than any other idiots in the comments. It's awful.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that is?
We just don't like anything. New Orleans people don't like anything. And I say that as a New Orleans person who doesn't like anything. And so when I first started at NOLA.com, they'd be like, oh, you're stupid. Oh, if this happened to you, you wouldn't say that. And it's like, first of all, my editor was drunk and published my story when she wasn't supposed to. Let's be clear about that. That was in the drafts. You were not supposed to post that, lady. And so now I'm the one looking stupid because they're like, oh, you don't get shot in the stomach. You get shot in the abdomen. How do you know what organ it was? Child, I never said that. So, just dealing with that. Girl, just stupid people, and like, they don't have our anecdotal, our memories and stuff. They don't have that. So me telling them, oh, there's a Hucklebuck man, what's that? Well, it's important to me, so I'm going to share it. And then they see it goes crazy with the people who are actually from here. And then that lends credibility to the publication. And then other publications try to copy. And that's annoying too. So that's why I happily write for Bon Appetit and Epicurious and all these other cool publications. Boom.
And talk about some of the articles that you wrote for Bon Appetit. I remember your gumbo article. That was just like, yes, finally, because in social media, like, people post their gumbo pictures, and then people go in and share it. Especially if you're a native New Orleanian and you've lived here long enough, tell us what a real gumbo should look like.
Right. Well, I know that some people are going to be like, oh, tomatoes are fine. No, I don't think tomatoes belong in gumbo. I know that some people, they're like, oh, well, I put a little bit. I don't care. I'm not putting any. I don't think they belong in gumbo. I think the roux should be dark. Not like, it don't have to be like black, but dark enough to have a little oomph to it, to feel, and a little thickness to it. Nothing crazy. I don't want it to be like gravy, but I want, when you're eating gumbo, this is like one of my favorite things. It's like an image. It's just in my mind. You take your little spoon and you stir it, and you pick up your spoon, and then there's like little drops, like not oil, but something like that. Like it sticks to the spoon, not like in a gravy way, but not like in a chicken noodle soup way. It's slightly thicker. Oh, and it's just, just seeing that. Oh, it does something to me. Oh, God. And I want all the things in it. I know people are like, oh, I make chicken and sausage gumbo. Okay, good for you. But when Megan is making gumbo at home, my gumbo that I make at home for holidays and all that will have chicken thighs, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Because one time at Dillard, I kept reheating my gumbo, and it was, I used to use the drumettes because that's what everybody used. But then the bones started to like disintegrate kind of, and it was terrible and weird. So I said, I'm just never going to put a bone in my gumbo again. Like, that's just crazy to me. So I just use boneless, skinless chicken thighs, or I'll use like a regular chicken thigh and I'll just take the bones out. And that's, I'll just do it myself. And sausage. I like hot sausage, of course. I know that some people like to roll it in balls. I don't want to see balls in my gumbo. So I just cut it. That sounded crazier than it's supposed to. But like, I don't want no balls in my gumbo. That looks weird to me. It just, I think that's what them caterers like to do. And that's weird to me. I like to see it coming out the little skin a little bit. That excites me. And that's how I'm like, okay, you are hot sausage because you coming out the skin. I can tell. And I like, I'm dewy. And the brand depends on my mood. Like, I'm fine getting everything from Winn-Dixie. I'm totally fine with that. Of course, my Trinity, I want to see my celery, so I always put a little more celery in there. Shrimp. What else do I put in mine? Okra. God, okra. I know some people are weird about okra. I love okra. I think it's special. And I know that if you want to get technical, people will be like, fun fact, okra means gumbo, or gumbo is okra, and that, yay, woo. I just think it's delicious. What else do I put in there? Oysters. And crab, gumbo crab. Some people put loose crab meat. Again, I don't want to see that. That's weird to me. But I'm sure it tastes delicious. I just don't want to see it. So writing that piece, it was funny. The editor, he was like, hey, Megan, it was our first time working together. He's like, hey, can you write about the 8 best po' boys in New Orleans? And I said, no, like that we get them from gas stations. And like, that's just going to be so boring. How exciting can meat or fish, whatever on bread be? And I don't want to use no gentrified po' boy, I don't know what kind of tofu and creatures and mushrooms, and I'm sure it's delicious, but when I think po' boy, it ain't that. So I didn't want to do that. So I suggested gumbo. And as you said, that was a tall order because you know how we are. The minute you see gumbo in a national publication, again, New Orleans people don't like anything. So we go in. We're like, oh, God, look at this. And just to have people like, oh, what's that man? Chasing Cash. Chasing Cash? Cash and Chase? I don't know, but he's that handsome man. And he's like a music man. Chasing Cash, that's his name. And he was like, man, this article legit. I was like, yes! Like, there we go. Yes. The streets like it. The real streets. Oh, God. And I have to push back a little bit on stuff.
And I think it's funny to me because, even I'm thinking about something recently. It's like seeing a picture, sometimes you can't control media and what they do, right? So sometimes when they take the pictures or something, you give them the recipe, then they make it look completely different from how it's supposed to look, and then you get the brunt of the bashing and the trolling because they're like, it doesn't look like that. That ain't real. When they don't know behind the scenes what it takes to put out an article or a book, you're not in control of it. Sometimes the food stylist does it, what they do, the photographer does what they do. It's a whole process. And I do believe that, hopefully through this podcast that, people will say, you know what, I need to hire food stylists that are indigenous to the region, wherever they are. I need to, hire photographers or make sure that the writer is involved in that process. What do you think about that?
Oh, I agree, because to make you laugh. So I was like, oh my God, I was so excited my story. Oh, girl. The day I opened up the page, the main picture was not a picture I took because I sent them a lot of pictures. And of course, I think they had like photographers. I don't remember. No, I think they sourced their pictures from online. But I sent them pictures like for social media and whatever. Because I love gumbo. Child, the picture that they used, I don't know where they found this picture. It looked like stewed okra is what it looked like to me. It was big old chunks of tomatoes. And so like you said, people saw that. People don't read the article and they just like, oh, I know that's gonna be trash. Who put tomatoes in gumbo? That like stuff that look like smothered okra. Man, y'all tripping, man. Y'all gotta hire people from here. And it's like they did. Just open the article, please. And they did not change it because it was like, they did all this. It was kind of cool and put it like on a stamp. So it looked like it was on a postage stamp. But I want them to just go back into the Adobe project and just change the gumbo. I wish they could do that. But people do need to do that because you'll look and you're like, who puts a big old stupid crawfish inside of a gumbo? Who does that? And they're like, oh, that looks good. Oh, that's going to look nice. Ooh, nobody wants it. Or like these big pieces of things, it's not, gumbo don't shoot good. It don't look good. It don't shoot good. If you can make gumbo look good on camera, you are a talented person. Because gumbo doesn't photograph well.
That part.
Yeah.
In your on one of your articles that you wrote called "I'm a Seventh Generation New Orleanian," you said that to leave New Orleans before you get stuck. Grown-ups told me when I was a kid, because you don't want to be stuck. Talk about what it's like to be a native New Orleanian in a beautiful city that we live in, and just navigating what that means, and what you said in the article. Yeah. How do you flourish in a city that you have 7 generations, but a lot of times the opportunities are not offered?
Yeah, it is hard. And then, of course, like I said, I'm born and raised here, so I've got all this family here, or who was here, like the Bouttes. Those are all my family. So, Lillian Boutte and this one and that one and Trisha Boutte and all these ones, they all moved to Europe. And I remember I would go to their moms and mama, depending on which one I'm talking to, go to their house. And I was a little girl in a 7-board, right by Mules, all that stuff. We go there. And when they would be in town, they would tell me all these stories. Like my nanny Lillian Boutte, she would tell me about, I think that man's name is Robbie. I forget his name, but he's like this musician, and how much they love New Orleanians. Oh, whenever you go out, they love us wherever you are. Oh, they love you, and not even just in Europe, just anywhere, Chicago, here and there, and we'd be at home on the 7-board, hot, sad, miserable, happy in a way, in like a country way, like just happy, right. Like good times. We happy like good times. And then so we over there on good times, and then somebody comes and they're like, oh, hey, look, I got you a coat. Oh, I got you this. You got to come visit. Oh, Chicago. Oh, California, Los Angeles, So you're taught to just go. Because, like, that's the cool thing. Like, being a kid, you see them come, and they've got cool cars. They smell good. They look good. They send you pictures. And for Christmas, it's like these beautiful, beautiful pictures and letters. And oh, me and the children did this, and oh, it was wonderful, and they're so successful. So I just always thought that's what you do. That's because and that was the thing. People were always want to get stuck.
What made you decide to stay and rebuild your family home?
Girl, I was poor. I think a part of it was like a big part of it, honestly, was that I was young. I was 22 or so. I was 20 when Katrina happened. Yeah, I was 20 when Katrina happened. 22 when I started to like fix up the house, all this kind of stuff. And then, like I said, I had no family. Everybody was dead. So it was all my mom's friends who meant well, but they were older. Now I realized they were projecting their things going on. And they were like, girl, I passed by your house and the grass is higher than my knee and da-da-da. Oh, it looks some bad. And you better clean it up because you know what's going to happen. Braden-Perry going to come and he's going to tear it down and you're going to look for your house. It's going to be gone. And I was like, I don't want Braden-Perry to tear my house down. And I like imagine him all bald and sweaty, like just doing it by himself. Like, yeah, here I am, And I was like, oh my God, I have to stay in the house. So, and I'm happy, kind of, that I fixed up the house. I'm blessed that I have a place to stay for now. Because, girl, I had a sheriff's sale sticker on my house the other day. Scared me to death. But the Lord's going to work it out. I'm not tripping. But, so that's why I stayed. It was just easier to stay. And I had my things. I didn't have a whole lot of things. I wanted my things. I didn't drive. So it was just like, it's easier to stay. And why would I go? Because everybody's like, oh, you're going to leave and you don't know where you're going. Like the internet doesn't exist. So.
You wrote a couple of articles about voodoo in New Orleans and the botanicas in New Orleans. We have we recently interviewed a Babalao that and we talked a lot about Santeria and food. I would love to hear just about that experience about writing about voodoo in New Orleans, because child, I always drive past F&F Botanica, and it's just weird how that family died. I'm just like, what happened? And I even mentioned it in our talk, and it's just sitting there with all the candles in the windows, and, that Botanicas. And now you see a lot of Botanicas around town, but they're, no shade to, whoever opens up a business, but it's very different from Botanicas that most cities have, where they have spiritual, items to sell.
Exactly. I just remember, man, it's like you said, it was back to back. I think it was within 3 weeks that they all died. And I was like, well, except for Tanya, she didn't die. I don't think, Lord. But it was so scary. And that scares me to death. And so then I was really not trusting any of the ones who opened up, because some of them opened up soon after and would be like, oh, y'all calling my place and asking about this. Well, Well, that's what people knew. And it was in mid-city. Like that was, people who practice, a lot of them live in mid-city. That was like a super Latin community. It used to be. Anyway, gentrification, super Latin community, Black community. And you would just go. And they would never try to upsell you anything. They would never be weird. I miss that place so much. But sorry. So to the question, writing about it, it was cool. I like writing about it. Of course, I think everybody wanted to know, hey, where can I get my stuff now that they're closed? But also it's scary to write about it because, you're like, oh, are you really a good place? Am I talking too much? Am I saying things I shouldn't say? A friend of mine, she's a friend. When I interviewed her for this article, for the article about that, she was like, oh, because girl, when Louisa Tish, the one who wrote Jambalaya, they were like, oh, and when she wrote that, they were so mad at her because they said she said too much, So it's that fine line, because you got to gatekeep a little bit, but you also got to be like, look, I know what I'm talking about. Let me throw in a Papa Leg Bob, throw that down, whatever, so you can know I know what I'm talking about.
And you even had an article talking about why New Orleans loved purple. Oh, yeah. And I think each city, has like a color to it, and for you to write an article about purple and why New Orleans loves purple so much, I just loved that article. And I want you to talk a little bit about just why the purple is so significant. Because, when I go places and I see purple, or I see someone from New Orleans and they're wearing purple, it just brings so much joy,
Yeah, that's a Dillard thing, because I thought, how it is. You grew up in Chicago. I'm sure you have things that y'all did there that you were like, oh, this is normal. Everybody does this. And you're like, girl, no, they don't. Like when you're like, girl, they don't do that everywhere. Like they looking at me crazy because I'm asking, for like this, that, the other, So like when I was at Dillard, I remember they were like, golly, y'all sure like purple. Y'all got purple everything. Purple trash cans, purple houses, purple this. And I was like, y'all don't? It's a color. Is it not? Is it not a color? Like, why are we going to deny a color joy? But, and then I remember, like you said, you get so happy. Like my Uncle Paco, who I mentioned, his real name is Russell D. Groove. They called him Paco. He taught Spanish for like forever at Andrew J. Bell and at St. Aug. And then he went to St. Aug. So that man, baby, he used to wear purple. Not just purple, St. Aug purple. He would wear St. Aug outfits every day. I remember there was this commercial of Ronald McDonald years ago, and Ronald opened his closet, and it was like all of his Ronald McDonald shoes just in a row. It was like all my Ronald shoes, his Ronald outfits. And that's how I feel like Uncle Paco was. I feel like he probably had just closet, just St. Aug, St. Aug, St. Aug, St. Aug, St. Aug leather jacket, St. Aug shirt, St. Aug tracksuit. The man had unlimited St. Aug clothes. So, I think about that. It's something, and then even you think about St. Aug again. I'm not to sound like, as they say, an Aug groupie, or whatever. Like I was waiting at the gate or whatever they would do. But, you know, I think about that. Like with St. Aul people, they'll be like, oh, if they're referencing another St. Aul person, like, oh, let's say I got to get my car fixed. Say, bro, you got a mechanic? Yeah, man, my dog Larry. And he purple. Oh, he purple? Yeah, he purple. Okay, great. So now I know my car is going to get fixed because Larry is purple, as am I, and Larry going to give me the best deal he could ever give me, and he going to give my children the same deal, my mama, my daddy, everybody, you know?
Just to let our listeners know, St. Augustine High School is the only Black Catholic all-boys school in the United States, and they their mascots are Purple Knights. So purple is definitely their color. So that's what Megan is referencing. Oh, yeah. I want to also, you mentioned earlier about corner stores and, you know, gas stations. Could you talk a little bit that I know you talk a lot about, you know, on social media, if you're not from New Orleans, then, you know, her funny stories about going to the Blue store in her neighborhood and how the gentrifiers found the Blue store and how upset she was.
Yeah. It's annoying. It's annoying because we can't have nothing. Like, Lord. And then they come, you know, honestly, I'm going to go real back to F&F. I remember, like, in the years, like, right before it closed, well, you know, before everything happened, I remember Tanya used to not be there so much. And so Tanya was the wife of Jonathan, and she was the daughter of Baba Felix. So she was amazing. You would go to her and she just knew everything, and she wouldn't be weird about it. She would just be like, hey, I know that you're having these dreams. So what I need you to do is get a journal. Okay. Get this. And she would just prescribe it to you. She would make my friends cry, not in a bad, but you're just like, oh my God, you knew. So, I remember, you know, now you got social media. That was 2018. I want to say when they closed. So right before then, people, you know, were on Instagram and this and that. This is funny. This spray says run, devil, run. This is so funny. It's hilarious. And it was like, why are you, first of all, in my space? And then why are you making fun of me? You know, like, why are you making fun of what we do? Mm-hmm. That run, devil, run spray works just fine. You know, all these things work great. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, just go away. So that's like, you know, I think about the Blue store and stuff, you know. Oh my God, I went to the Blue store. You know, of course, I like put the accent on the wrong word. I went to the Blue store and oh my God, I got a poor boy, and and it's just like, Jesus, can you just enjoy it? Just shut up and enjoy it. Like second line, why you got to dance all hard? People who are from here are not dancing all hard. I'm just walking. I'm just drinking. I'm walking. I'm drinking. I might have some street meat in my hand. I'm looking at other street meat in the street. You know what I mean? You know? And but they're there trying to bump jump. Why are you in the way? Which is also kind of funny because, you know, we as Black people, Black women especially, it's hard for us to take up space because we're, you know, we take up space. It's a problem. As I say, it's a problem when I do it, you know? But then they bump jumping, and it's so cute, it's so funny. Yes, okay, Becky, you got an invitation to the cookout. Ow, the cookout's full. I'm tired.
You are hilarious. We will be back after a few brief messages, and we're going to come back and talk to Megan about dating. Thank you for listening to Culture and Flavor. We'll be back in after a few brief messages. Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. Wisconsin certainly knows their cheese. The only state that requires a license to cheese, they take the craft very seriously. That's why this year, Wisconsin Cheese is hosting the very first Art of Cheese Festival to celebrate all things curds. From September 29th to October 1st, you too can join the Jubilee. Over the course of the festival, you can learn how to pair cheese like a pro. Art of Cheese is thrilled to offer classes on pairing cheese with wine from the industry's leading sommeliers, cocktails from spirits experts, chocolate, and coffee, Yes, coffee with cheese from a former cheesemonger. At Art of Cheese, you can level up your artisanal cheese-making knowledge with a curds-on deep dive amongst the cream of the crop and celebrate all things cheese by dancing the night away as the belle of the Wisconsin Cheese Ball. You won't want to miss out on finding your next favorite cheese at the party of the year. Head over to www.artofcheesefestival.com for your tickets to Pastured Paradise.
Okay, we're back with Culture and Flavor with Megan Braden-Perry. We're going to get right into it. I mean, I'm sure you all enjoyed the first half of this episode, and I hope you all are giggling and just laughing and having a good time, because she is a character. Talk to me about, sometimes you voice your frustrations or your or your desires about dating as a single mom, and they are hilarious. I swear you need your own show, because I mean, even just dating advice, because you'll go on there talking about either a date that you went on and then the guy tried to be cheap with you, or he found out that he was married or something. So many stories.
Girl. Well, Essence Fest is my favorite holiday. I love Essence Fest, but I've learned over the years that Essence men, I'm not going to say what I usually say, Essence men be married. They be married. If you were at Essence and you're a man and you're alone, I'm assuming you're married. Now I just assume it. And so now my thing is to figure out how. And how do I know that? So I'll ask. For one, let's say you're not wearing a ring. Oh, man, you so beautiful. Oh, you gorgeous. Man, I really like you. I'm trying to be with you. I want to see you. You ever been to whatever event in whatever place? Man, you ought to come. Come see me. Oh, really? Because I'm going to get my food. I'm going to get my drink, because I'm going to use you the way you're trying to use me. Because this is not real life. This is Essence Fest, So I have my little fun, because you're not wearing the ring. I asked you multiple times if you married. Okay, great. Then you know what? You want to play not married? I can play not married too. I can play that game right there with you. So then I'll take the number. Have you ever done this? Put a number in Cash App to find a person's name? I mean,
no, I've never done that.
Yes. So that the last one that I met, because this Essence was just hot, and I had other things to do, so I wasn't really meeting men. But this man I met, he was all in my face, all kiki, la la, all in my face. Meet my friends, da da da, woo woo. Oh, my frat brother. Oh, my pro fight. Okay, whatever. So I put in his name, and of course, his number. Put in the number on Cash App. Find his name. Look up the name on Facebook. Of course, he's married. So then, the investigative journalist and me was like, "All right, put on your recorder," because he called. Well, the Essence men who are married, they don't they'll call you nonstop when you're there. But then after, of course, they go back to their wives, so they don't call. So this one called, and I said, "Oh, okay. Let me go downstairs and, hi. Oh, it's great to hear your voice too. Oh my God. So what'd you end up doing? What? Hey, so yeah, how long you been married? Just real casual. And then, how long have I been married? Married? Oh, married. 15 years. 15 years. 15 years. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Because that's all they do is lie. And the thing about, New Orleans, we like to shoot people. I mean, I'm not shooting nobody, but I don't want to get shot. So I don't, especially over some man with a natural curl or whatever, S curl, natural perm, whatever. I don't want to get shot over that. I don't want to get shot over that. A man who didn't even buy me food. Baby, please keep your man. I don't want to get shot over him. But people can get shot. So I'm like, you know what? Now you got me out here living dangerous. So it's hard. And then a friend of mine, the other day, I was talking to her. She's a little older than me, not from here. I was telling her about dating and how hard it is, da-da. And I was like, oh, maybe if I move to Chicago, because I'm up for a job in Chicago. I'm up for a job that's remote, too. I'm probably going to, whatever. But the Chicago one, I was like, you know what? If I had to move to Chicago, that's fine. Because the men, hey, new men. And she was like, yeah, honestly, Megan, I think that a lot of times people think they know you, but they don't, so they have like these preconceived notions. you get the idiots who are like, man, I hope you don't write about me. I hope I don't write it on Facebook. Well, act right and you won't. Because they got a million men who ain't never made it to my page, not nary a mention. You know?
But how do you navigate all of that while parenting, your beautiful son, Franklin? I mean, he's just growing up so fast, and you are just such an incredible mom. You've written a lot of articles about parenting. You always share stories with him and, stories about him and just you all, enjoying the day with each other. What advice would you give to single moms?
Oh, that's hard because, to me, there's like, of course, it's double standard, right? Because they're like, oh, you can't bring everybody around your child or whatever. But then also I want to make sure you're not a weirdo, not a creep. So I don't know. It's just hard. And then you have people who think, especially when your baby is young, people always thought I was looking for a daddy for my son. Baby, his daddy is just fine. He has a dad. His dad's involved. We don't live together. I don't want to be married to him. And also they would think, oh, you're going to go be back with that man. No, I'm not. I left him. So it's just hard. I wish I did have advice. Just hopefully you find somebody who's honest. I looked up just now on my vision board and it said security. So I don't know what that's trying to mean. Maybe it's that you're going to find somebody who's secure in themselves, who is just really a nice man who doesn't think that you're insecure, as in like, oh, I need somebody to take care of my baby. Oh, I need someone to do this and do that. I just want somebody to watch TV with from time to time. I have a lot of events. I'd like to bring a male plus one sometimes, but I don't because they be acting crazy.
So let me ask you, what are some of your favorite places to eat in New Orleans since you cover that? Yes. And you're always out and I see you at restaurants just having a good old time. What are some of your favorite places that you think that our listeners should go to?
Okay.
And let me ask this too. The B part of the question is, and what is a proper dining etiquette if you're not from New Orleans when you go to some of these places?
Oh, okay. I would say my favorite, if you want to just have a whole bunch of really delicious, fresh, great food, New Orleans food, Louisiana food, Bryson's. It's the one that just for the listeners, it looks like Brixton's. So you're going to look it up online, BRIGSTN''S, pronounced Bryson's. Lovely, amazing food. And I found out when I was doing my gumbo article, Chef Frank makes his gumbo the exact same way I do mine. I felt so validated. Free Thai, delicious Haitian food. We're not known for Haitian food. I mean, we should be. That's another story. But really, really great food. Let me see. Oh gosh. Okay. You know what? New Orleans food. Let me stick to New Orleans food. Ooh. Dookie Chase. Of course, you have to go to Dookie Chase. It's an experience. But also, I would say Chapter 4, which is Lil Duke's restaurant, and that's like if you ever don't want to see people that don't go there because you're gonna see if you're from here, you're gonna see everybody you know. Don't be there down bad. Don't be, because you're going to see everybody and they're going to see you. It's not that big. I love it though. I had really amazing, like down the bayou type barbecue. So like kind of country-ish Louisiana barbecue at, what is it called? Oh, at Devil Moon. Oh yeah. Well, Devil Moon barbecue, but also Brewery St. X, the best crackling I've ever had in the city, period. It was just soft and good. Oh, I think about it every day. And I went there on Franklin's birthday, June 17th. I think about it every day. Also downtown is King Brasserie. The food is great and the drinks are lovely, but the dessert, it's like a lady dessert chef whose name I forget, but the desserts are just mind blowing. Again, I went there right before Essence. And I can't stop thinking about it. Lovely place. And they treat their employees very fairly. Like they all get like a really nice pay. benefits and this and that, and like hotel stays, and the employees are happy. What else? Oh God, so many places. Tacos. I go to taco trucks or lawyers. Not people that come here for tacos, but so much stuff.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say po' boys. For seafood po' boys and hot sausage, I go to Castnet. For roast beef, I go to the Wabbit on the West Bank.
It all sounds so good.
Yes.
Then what's the question is, then what's the proper dining etiquette if you're not from here? Because it's a lot of articles that have come out about either, people from out of town and how they treat service workers, and even just what you said earlier about showing up in places that are community led and, sacred to a neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I would say, one thing that I've heard from my service industry friends is that, how we are, we call everybody baby and love and darling. And it's just so normal to us. We're not flirting with you. We're just being kind. We're just like, oh, all right, my baby, da, da, da. That's how we are, we're not trying to do anything extra. So don't think people are trying to flirt with you because they're probably not. What else would I say? And then treat people the way you would treat anybody else. Don't think that because you look at New Orleans and you're like, oh, look at these cool buildings, I'm sure everybody is successful in this and that. A lot of people aren't. A lot of people are struggling. So make sure if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to eat. Period. You just can't. And I mean tip like 20% at least or more. Another thing that I learned is if you're, and this is like really just a fun trick that you can use anywhere, is that if you are somewhere and and you want to tip the person, but it just goes to them. Like if there's a tip pool, of course don't do this because that'd be a really jerk move. But if it goes directly to the person, like, and they're going to get all their own tips, you can Cash App them or something like that. That way they get it right there. Because some places you get your tips that night, some places you don't. But a lot of people really.
I saw a video and it had me sad but laughing at the same time, and it happens all the time when you have a big party and you go out to eat. What's the proper dining etiquette for when you have a big party and the bill comes and it has to be split? I mean, it drives servers crazy because, they'll ask for separate bills, and then sometimes people, don't have all their money, and then you end up having to pay for a little bit more. Talk to us about that.
It's hard. So when I was a waitress, I used to, New Orleans. So I was a waitress right after Katrina at this place called Cabby's inside the Hilton because I went to Dillard. Obviously, we were living in the Hilton. So I was a waitress basically at school. So, and I was Black. I still am. But the other people, they had other people who they would see like a Black table come in and they'd be like, all right, Megan, that's you. And I'd be like, okay, because they didn't want to take them, And I'd be like, okay, here I am, da da da. Look, I don't mind, splitting. Let me just ask you right now, are you going to split it? How is it going to be split? That way I can be ready. That way I can write it down, da da da. And then I would end up getting tipped really, really well. I think because they understood it wasn't like a drama thing, And then as we talk about all the time, during Essence and stuff, all these restaurants close or they institute these policies, no split tickets, no this, no that, because they don't want us there. Like a lot of those places on Fulton, like by Harris, they're obligated to stay open. They can't close because they're attached to Harris, but then they'll put on their little wall, oh, can't do this, no split tickets, no this, no that, which I think is just silly. And then, autograd, I don't know. When I was a waitress, I just did it differently. I didn't mind it, but I will say that a trick that I like to do, and then one thing that people used to do when they would want to split up the tab, that was cool. I don't mind you splitting up the tab, but if you could help me out, give me all the cards. I'll run them all. I'll bloop, 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 bloop. but put your initials next. Like, I'll give you the whole big check. You put your initials. That way I can be like, okay, this, da-da-da, this, da-da-da. And then, then I'll put the tip on each individual thing. I'll leave a spot and you can do it. Because auto grad, it just gets confusing. But I know some people do it. And I know some restaurants have a service industry fee. Baby, just charge me more. I don't mind, because now I'm confused. Because I'm like, are you going to give it to them? Are you really doing that? Are they going to get it? Or are you going to get it? But one trick, if you're forced to go out for one of these horrendous dinners, is I go, baby, listen, I get there early or whenever, and I'll go to the waitress or the server, and I'll say, hey, my baby, listen, okay, I have an event. I have a prior engagement. I know I won't be around when the check comes, but I want to make sure you're taken care of. So look, can you just split me off? Can I just have my own tab? I'll sit with them, but I have my own tab. Oh, you want your own tab? Girl, say less. And then I get my own tab, and I'm out of there. And I'll leave them to tussle. I'll leave them to fight. Because I'm taking care of them.
Good tip.
Yes.
Good tip.
Yes.
Good tip. You have a couple of articles in Epicurious about king cake history and king cake recipes. What are some of your top favorite places to buy king cakes?
High dough. I love high dough king cake because it's very plain and basic. And when I was in school, all we got was very plain, basic Mackenzie's king cake. A big old sweet thing of bread with sugar on it, and this weird piece that had like a clown and like a cherry and sprinkles or whatever. And that's what I want. I don't want no razzle dazzle king cake. But if I do, just for fun, if I want a king cake that tastes fun, it doesn't taste like king cake to me, but they sell it at King Cake Time. I would say the one from Norma's Cuban Cafe and Bakery. They got the guava and cream cheese. Excellent, of course. And then another, I must like fruit and cheese, because my other one is, what's that place called? It used to be Cake Cafe, but they closed, but now they do it at Noka. So it's goat, cheese, and apple. And that's a fun one. Would I call it a king cake? No. But to them it is, and it makes them happy. Oh my gosh. And Bywater Bakery. Theirs is really good. Yeah. Yeah.
Enjoy king cake season with Franklin, because, one day, you won't have to take king cakes to school and stuff. And then, my boys are older now, and I'm just like, oh, I miss those days when I'd have to bring king cake to school. We're so fortunate to live in New Orleans, and, and kids, it's a beautiful thing growing up in New Orleans, I think.
It is. And listen, these schools they don't let you bring no king cake. Frankly,
really?
Don't have no king cake. No, I think like maybe the teacher, if she wants to buy it, she can, and that's on her. But they don't have like the weekly king cake thing. Nope.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is.
I didn't know that. I guess mine was the last to do that. Because if you, for our listeners, it was tradition where you, if a child brought a king cake and whoever had the piece with the baby, then they had to buy the next king cake, and they did it for the whole Mardi Gras season. And it was just such a fun time for kids, and, just the sugary joy of eating king cake and getting ready for Mardi Gras.
Yes. Oh, the sugar on my desk I'd lick. Oh, God. I can just see
the highlight of the day.
Yes.
Oh, man. But I want to thank you, Megan, so much for joining Culture and Flavor. This was a beautiful episode, and I'm so excited to see all the things that you do. And, just keep on being your true self, because you are definitely a light.
Thank you. That means so much coming from you, Zella, because you've known me for a while, and you've seen the struggles and the highs and the lows. So I thank you, and I'm proud of you and your babies.
Thank you.
I love you so much.
Thank you. Love you too. Thank you all for joining Culture and Flavor.
Culture and Flavor is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org. www.freelance.org/subscribe.